The last sound she made was a drawer sliding shut. That was 12 days ago. Since then, it's been footsteps, water running, a door opening, her breath, once, sharp and accidental when she burned herself on the oven tray. But not one word. Not even a fake cough to remind me she existed. She doesn't look angry. That's the strangest part. I wish she did. I wish she slammed things, shouted, pointed, said something like, "This isn't working." But no. She moves around the house like I'm a forgotten sock under the bed. Not worth the effort to pick up. Not even worth noticing. She wears her headphones constantly now. Even when cooking. Even when folding towels. Yesterday, I watched her stir spaghetti while bopping her head to a song I couldn't hear. Mouthing lyrics with such passion, I started to wonder if she was in love with the song. Or someone sending it to her. I once said her silence felt like punishment. Now it feels like performance. Calculated. Practiced. And then there's the nightlight. We don't have kids. We've never had a nightlight. But last week, I saw one glowing under the door of the guest bedroom. It cast a soft pink halo on the carpet. Strawberry-shaped. New. I don't know where it came from. She sleeps in that room now. I tried knocking once. Just once. She turned off the light. That's it. And yet every morning, the coffee is made. But only one cup. Hers. Every night, the trash is taken out. But only from her bathroom. I checked mine yesterday, still full of tissues, receipts, a candy wrapper I dropped in a spiral of self-pity at 2 a.m. She's moving through this house like a ghost who only haunts the parts that still belong to her. Until this morning. Until the thing with the envelope. I found it on the floor just inside the front door. No stamp. No address. Just my name in her handwriting. I didn't open it right away. I stood there, holding it, thinking maybe it was a list of things she wanted from the grocery store. It wasn't. Inside was a photo of our wedding. Torn in half. Only my side remained. Nothing else. No note. No signature. I waited for her to come downstairs, to explain, to look smug, to gloat, to do something. But she never did. Because by the time I reached the kitchen, she was already gone. And so was someone else. But that part, that's what no one's going to believe. The moment I realized my car was gone, my stomach folded in on itself. I keep the keys in a little ceramic bowl by the front door. It's shaped like a leaf, something she picked up at an overpriced arts market last fall. For months, she hated that bowl, called it too crunchy for keys. But she never moved it. This morning, it was empty, clean, wiped down like it had never been used. At first, I thought maybe she'd gone for a drive. But then I saw the charger missing from the outlet. The dent in the hallway rug where her small suitcase used to sit, gone. The hook by the stairs where she kept her green coat, empty. All these details, screaming at me quietly, all at once. She didn't just leave. She planned to leave. And she took him with her. Not a child. Not a pet. A man. I didn't want to believe it. God knows I tried to give her the benefit of the doubt. But when I went back upstairs to her room, the guest room now, I guess, I found something that made my spine go cold. On her pillow was a single AirPod. The other was missing. But the case was there, still open. And underneath it, half tucked into the bedsheet like a bookmark, was a photo strip. One of those stupid black and white ones you get from a vintage photo booth at the mall. 3 frames. 3 shots. Her. And a man. Not me. In the first, she's biting his shoulder, laughing. In the second, he's kissing her cheek, and her eyes are closed like she's in a movie. In the third, they're flipping off the camera with matching smirks. Hers curled at the edges, like she's daring the world to stop her. The photo had a timestamp. From 2 weeks ago. She was already pulling away then. Already planning this escape. And I was just downstairs, microwaving leftovers and Googling how to fix a squeaky cabinet door like a fool. I don't know who he is. But I recognize his hoodie. It's the same one that vanished from our coat rack last Tuesday. I remember noticing it because I thought maybe I'd finally donated it during a cleaning binge. But no. He took it. Or she gave it to him. Either way, it's his now. And apparently, so is she. You might expect rage at this point. Or heartbreak. But all I felt was embarrassment. Not sadness. Not betrayal. Just the slow, crawling humiliation of knowing someone else had front-row tickets to the breakdown of my marriage, and I didn't even know the show had started. I sat at the kitchen table, clutching that photo strip like it was a police report. Something about the image felt staged. Too perfect. Like it was meant to be found. And maybe it was. That's when I noticed the envelope again. The one from earlier, with my name on it. I'd left it on the counter after finding the wedding photo torn in half. but now it was flipped over. Someone had written 2 words on the back in red marker. Don't follow. The letters were thick, rushed, almost scratched in. Suddenly, the silence of the house didn't feel empty. It felt intentional, like I was being watched by its walls, like she'd stripped the space of warmth on purpose, so I'd feel this exact kind of cold. I stood up too fast. The chair scraped across the floor. I looked around like maybe I'd find a hidden camera, a microphone, some kind of explanation. But all I found was one more missing thing. The file box. It used to sit in our hallway closet, labeled Clive's stuff, tax documents, bank letters, my birth certificate, everything I once thought was important. Gone. She took it. Not by accident. Not carelessly. She wanted me to know she left with more than her toothbrush. She left with my life. I stood in front of the open closet for what must have been 10 minutes, just staring at the empty space where the file box used to sit. It felt like she'd stolen more than documents, like she'd taken the proof that I existed, that I had a name, a past, a signature that meant something. And maybe that was the point. That box held everything. Medical records, pay stubs from every job I'd ever worked, including the soul-sucking one I only kept because she said she liked the health insurance. There were letters from my dead uncle, my college diploma, even the receipt from the cheap motel where we spent our first anniversary after the hotel canceled our reservation last minute. She used to call that night our little disaster. I guess it aged like everything else. I don't know why she took it. Unless. No, that's not true. I do know why. But admitting it feels like setting myself on fire. Tamsin isn't just leaving. She's replacing. Cleaning me out like a tenant getting evicted. No trace. No photos. No files. No excuses left to call. Not even my voice on a voicemail. I wanted to scream. But what's the point of screaming when no one's listening? Instead, I started checking the house. Room by room. Drawer by drawer. I told myself it was to see what else was missing, but really, I think I was just looking for something. Anything. That still felt like mine. The bedroom still smelled faintly like her dry shampoo. The vanilla one she said she bought for me, even though I'm allergic. I found one of her earrings under the bed. A small gold hoop. I placed it on the nightstand gently, like I was preserving evidence. When I opened her nightstand drawer, I found a flash drive. A red one. No label. That was weird. Tamsin hates clutter. She wouldn't just leave something random behind. I plugged it into my laptop with shaking hands. At first, it was empty. Just one folder named January. But inside it were dozens of voice memos. And they were all titled with dates. The first was from 5 months ago. I clicked it. Her voice came through the speaker, sharp and close, like she was whispering directly into my ear. He just sat there again today, eating noodles, watching that dumb woodworking channel. He doesn't even notice when I leave the room anymore. I think I could disappear and he wouldn't flinch. My mouth went dry. I clicked the next. He asked if I wanted to watch something together. I told him I had a headache. He believed me, of course. He always believes me. Then another. We went to dinner. I pretended to forget my wallet. He paid. Again. He always pays. I think he thinks love is just doing chores and picking up tabs. They kept going. Each one shorter, colder, sharper. Each one cataloging my smallest movements like I was a failed experiment. A man being observed. Documented. Dismantled. Then I found one with no date. I clicked it. Her voice sounded closer this time. Urgent. He'll figure it out soon. I left enough crumbs. I need him to break first. If he thinks it was his decision to walk away, I won't have to be the bad guy. That's the plan. That's the plan. I slammed the laptop shut. My chest felt like it had been caved in with a tire iron. I wanted to throw the computer out the window, but I didn't. Because now I understood something I hadn't before. She wasn't just leaving me. She was building a story about me. A narrative. Carefully edited. Voice memo by voice memo. She wasn't just trying to vanish. She was trying to make sure if I ever told my side of things, no one would believe it. I was the pathetic one. The delusional one. The guy who got dumped for being boring and needy and fragile. And you know what hurts most? Maybe she was right. Maybe I was too soft. Maybe I stayed too long. Maybe I gave her too many excuses. Maybe I was the kind of man you could just leave without packing everything. Just the essentials. Just the story. But there's one thing she didn't take. She didn't take my copy of the house deed. She didn't take the emergency credit card I kept behind the washing machine. And she didn't take the one person who knows what really happened the night she told me she was going out for a walk. and came back with a bruise on her collarbone that she never explained. Yeah, she left me behind, but she left the wrong man standing. And now? Now I'm going to open the folder labeled February. I didn't sleep that night. I couldn't. My body was still, but my brain was marching in circles, dragging chains of paranoia behind it. Every sound in the house echoed louder than it should have. Every creak in the woods sounded like a whisper behind the wall. And somewhere between 3 and 4 a.m., I realized I had memorized her voice from those recordings more vividly than I ever remembered it in real life. At 4:43 a.m., I opened the next folder. February. There were fewer files this time. Only 7. All with the same format. February 2nd, February 8th, February 14th, and so on. I opened the one from Valentine's Day. He bought me flowers. Cheap ones. The kind you get from a gas station after you've already forgotten what day it is. I smiled. I said thank you. I kissed his cheek like I meant it. But inside I wanted to scream. I can't keep doing this. I feel like I'm rotting in place. She didn't scream. She never even frowned that day. I remember asking her if she wanted to go out, and she said she was tired. So we watched TV. Some show she picked. I let her choose everything. I thought I was being considerate. Turns out I was just being predictable. And that was my crime, apparently, being easy to tolerate and easier to forget. I clicked through the next few clips, each one more emotionally detached than the last. Her voice grew flatter, quieter, until it was almost mechanical, as if she was just cataloging my downfall like a weather report. No emotion, just observation. But the last file stopped me cold. It was longer than the others. Over 8 minutes. Labeled Feb 28_final. I didn't even know what I expected. Maybe a full confession, a goodbye, a laugh. But what I got was him. Not her voice this time. His. A man's voice. Calm, confident. Southern drawl, maybe Georgia or Alabama. Slight rasp. Older. He sounded relaxed, like he was sitting in a chair with a drink in his hand. So here's the deal. You've done everything right. He's cracking. You've given him silence. Confusion. Just enough guilt to make him second-guess his own reflection. Keep it up for a few more weeks, and he'll walk out on his own. No messy papers. No lawyers. He'll be gone, and no one will ever accuse you of cheating. You'll be the victim. There was a pause. Then her voice, soft, hesitant. What if he doesn't leave? His response. Then we make it look like he did. My heart actually stopped. I'm not exaggerating. I felt it miss a beat, like my body knew something my mind couldn't process yet. Then she asked another question. One I'll never forget. And what about the copy? The copy. I rewound it. Played it again. The copy. Not a copy. Not his copy. Just the copy. What the hell were they talking about? A second recording? A document? A backup plan? What kind of people talk like that? Not lovers. Not cheaters. This wasn't just a fling. This was organized. Deliberate. Premeditated. I sat there, hands gripping the edge of the desk, trying to breathe. My legs had gone completely numb. I hadn't even realized I'd been sitting cross-legged for over an hour. My body had shut down everything except my ears. And they were ringing now. I had to know who he was. So I went back to the photo strip. I scanned the guy's face, zoomed in, tried to pull anything out of it. He had a crooked tooth. A mole under his eye. He was older than me, maybe mid-40s. Balding. But confident, like the world owed him a round of applause just for waking up. And then it hit me. I had seen him before. 3 months ago. At my brother's birthday dinner. He was sitting at the end of the restaurant bar, sipping something brown and watching us with a look I now recognize. Patience. He was waiting. For her. Or for the plan. I don't know. But he was there. And if he was there, that means this wasn't just her idea. She had help. And not just help, infrastructure. Which means everything I knew about my marriage wasn't just broken. It was engineered. And the worst part? She'd chosen him over me. Not for love. Not for passion. But because I was too easy to erase. That's when I decided to stop listening. Not because I was done, but because I'd heard enough to know what they were trying to do. And if they thought I'd vanish quietly like a stain on a rug, they'd underestimated just how much a man like me remembers. Especially when he's been silent too long. You know what happens when someone tries to erase you? You start remembering everything. Not just the conversations or the gestures, but the patterns. The moments you dismissed as nothing, because trusting her used to feel easier than thinking too much. But once I stopped seeing her as my wife and started seeing her as a strategist, Everything reassembled in my mind like puzzle pieces snapping into place after months of pretending the picture didn't matter. 3 weeks ago, she told me not to take the recycling out, said she'd already done it. She hadn't. I checked the bin later, and it was still full. I thought maybe she was tired. Now I realize, she didn't want me looking inside. She didn't want me seeing what she'd thrown away. A week before that, she changed the Wi-Fi password without telling me, claimed it was for security, locked me out of my own network, said I could hotspot off her phone if I really needed to check my emails. She was smiling when she said that. I remember thinking it was a little cruel. And 5 days ago, she asked if I still had that old USB drive, the encrypted one I used for taxes. When I told her I'd lost it months ago, she didn't even blink. Just said, "Shame," and walked away. I thought it was a random question. Now I know it wasn't. She's been mapping me, testing me, seeing what I notice, what I question, what I forget. But now the questions are mine. Like, why was my childhood journal, the one I kept locked in a box in the attic, suddenly missing? Why was the spare car key that I never used mysteriously back on my nightstand last night, when I swear it was gone the day before? And why did I find a receipt, tucked behind the microwave, for a storage unit I never rented, paid in my name? 2 towns over. The truth started bending that day, warping under the heat of my realization. I felt like I'd been walking around inside a stage set, and someone just ripped down the backdrop. All I could see now were ropes, pulleys, and trapdoors. That's when I decided to go to the storage unit. I told no one. I didn't even take my phone, just in case. I drove an hour, parked a block away, and walked the rest. It was a gray building, anonymous, tucked between an auto shop and a vacant lot. The kind of place you'd never notice unless you were looking for it. That alone should have told me something. When I gave them the name, the clerk raised an eyebrow. "You're the one paying for Unit 206, he asked. "Yeah," I said. He looked me over. "Huh, you don't look like the guy I usually see." My stomach clenched. "Excuse me." He hesitated, then shrugged. "Nothing. People rent for other people all the time." He handed me the keycard. I walked down the hallway, hands sweating, heart thudding so loud it drowned out my thoughts. I opened the unit. And inside, nothing. At first, just a table, a cheap folding chair, a floor lamp, and a black duffel bag in the corner. The air smelled like dust and bleach. I stepped in, shut the door behind me. The duffel bag wasn't locked. I unzipped it slowly. Inside were 3 things. A stack of manila folders labeled with my name and hers, each one filled with printed emails, screenshots, and transcripts. Some were from years ago, some were from last week. Every page marked, annotated, highlighted. A burner phone, fully charged, no pin. The call log showed 1 recurring number, no name attached. Dozens of calls, some outgoing, most incoming. The last one, yesterday. And finally a photo. It was me, at the grocery store, last week, taken from behind. She'd been following me, or someone had, tracking my movements, cataloging where I went, what time, what I bought. I remembered that day. I'd picked up soup, allergy meds, and a bottle of wine I never got to open. Suddenly the memory felt wrong, like it wasn't mine anymore. I sat down on the chair, the folder on my lap, and started reading. That's when I realized this wasn't about a divorce. It was about reputation. They were collecting evidence, creating it, twisting it. Everything was framed to look like I had been unstable, forgetful, even dangerous. She'd built a case that I was spiraling, erratic, emotional, paranoid. And in some ways, maybe I was. But only because I was being driven there. The final page of the file had 1 sentence on it. Typed, bold. "The trigger has to be internal. He must believe it's his own unraveling." They weren't just planning to leave me. They were planning to break me. Publicly, quietly, completely. And they almost did. But not anymore. Because now I've got their entire plan. And I'm going to make sure someone hears my side before they take the mic away. The folder sat in my lap like it was pulsing. I didn't know how long I'd been in that unit, reading and rereading page after page of twisted half-truths and surgical manipulation. Somewhere along the way, I stopped seeing myself in those transcripts. Whoever they described, the erratic, depressed, unhinged Clive, he was a character, a prop, a strawman with my handwriting and social security number. But he wasn't me. He never had been. That's when something inside me shifted. I stopped thinking like a husband. I stopped thinking like a victim. And I started thinking like them. If they could write a version of me convincing enough to destroy everything I'd built, then I could write a version of them that burns their whole fantasy to the ground. But first, I needed to see what she'd left behind, not just physically, but digitally. I had avoided her laptop out of some twisted sense of respect. Not anymore. I went home and found it buried under a pile of old scarves in the linen closet. Clever, Tamsin. Hide the weapon behind soft things. It was password protected, of course, but I knew her tells. She always used important dates, not ours, but hers. The day she started her photography blog. The date she won some award in college. The day she moved out of her parents' house. I tried 6 before it clicked. And when it did, it opened up like a vault full of landmines. There were folders labeled clients, drafts, and one called Phase 2. I opened the last one. Inside were templates. Yes, templates. Word-for-word breakup letters. Cry for help messages. Social media captions designed to paint her as emotionally manipulated and mentally trapped. There were versions with and without tears. Ones that cast her as brave. Others that painted me as unstable. All pre-written, waiting to be deployed like missiles. There was a file titled, If He Finds Out. It was a checklist. Gaslight sequence, complete. Controlled withdrawal, complete. Audio evidence, uploaded. Passive trigger phrases, used. Emotional distancing, complete. Potential outbursts, none observed. Public meltdown opportunity, TBD. It read like a project plan. Like I was just another campaign. Something she could mark as finished once I finally cracked under the weight of confusion and self-doubt. But I didn't crack, because I found the final file. A video. Just one. Titled, Final Leverage. It was grainy, shaky, filmed from a phone hidden in her coat, I think. But the subject was clear. It was me, sitting on our porch, talking to myself. At first, I couldn't even remember what I was saying. Then I realized I'd been rehearsing a voicemail, one I never sent. I was mumbling it over and over, trying to get the words right. I'm not sure what's happening anymore, I said in the clip. I don't know how to fix this. I don't even know if she wants me to try. To anyone watching it without context, I probably looked broken, lonely, lost. Exactly how she wanted me to appear. The camera zoomed in, slowly, deliberately. She must have sent this to him, the man with the voice. The one from the storage unit. The one who said, we make it look like he did. Suddenly, I realized what they were building wasn't just a story. It was insurance. If I snapped, if I yelled, acted out, broke something, she had pre-written proof that she'd been in danger. If I stayed silent, she could say I was emotionally manipulative. If I walked away, they'd say I abandoned her. Every possible ending made me the villain. Unless I rewrote the ending myself. I took screenshots. I saved everything. I uploaded them to cloud storage under a new name she'd never guess. Project Honeyroot. A name I remembered from a dream I had as a kid. Something she couldn't possibly link to me. I then made copies. Physical. Multiple USBs. One I mailed to my brother out of state with no return address. One I hid behind a ceiling tile in the basement of the library downtown. One I slid inside the lining of the suitcase she left behind. The one she forgot to take in her rush to disappear. And then I did something petty. Something small. Something very me. I took the photo strip of her and the man, the one I found earlier, and taped it to the fridge. But I scribbled something across it in red marker before I did. You left the wrong man behind. She thought I'd fall apart. She thought I'd disappear. But I was just getting started. There's a moment, right before you act, when your whole body rebels. Your chest tightens. Your stomach twists like it's trying to climb up your throat. Your hands shake, not from fear, but from the knowledge that nothing will ever be the same after this next decision. I stood in front of the door for nearly 5 full minutes before I knocked. Unit 4B, the one-bedroom apartment on Birch Street. I'd traced the lease through a chain of overlapping payments, silent shell names, and a wellness collective that doesn't even have a phone number. But the paper trail ended here. And so did my patience. I didn't tell anyone I was coming. Not because I was planning anything illegal, but because some things need to happen without an audience. This wasn't revenge. This was retrieval. She answered on the third knock. Tamsin. Her hair was tied up. Casual. She was wearing a hoodie I didn't recognize, too big for her shoulders. She froze when she saw me. Not fear. Not guilt. Just calculation. I could see her eyes scanning my face like she was mentally flipping through a deck of responses, trying to choose the right one for this unexpected scene. Clive, she said finally. Just my name. Like a placeholder. You forgot something, I told her. I didn't smile. I didn't raise my voice. I just held out the manila envelope. She didn't take it. She glanced down at it like it was a dead bird I was offering. What is this? The rest of the story, I said. Yours is missing a few pages. She hesitated, then stepped back. I didn't wait for an invitation. I walked in. The apartment was sparse. Clean. Too clean. The walls were bare. No photos. No books. No memories. Just objects with functions. A lamp. A desk. A laptop I recognized. And him, sitting on the couch. The man from the photo booth. The man from the audio recordings. The one with the drawl and the promises. He stood up slowly, like he thought his height was still an advantage. It wasn't. Clive, is it? He asked. His voice was smoother in person. More practiced. You've been busy, I replied. Tamsin closed the door behind me. Quietly. She didn't say a word. I placed the envelope on the coffee table. That's everything you didn't plan for. Everything I kept. Every recording. Every file. Every timestamp. All neatly documented. Triple backed up. He didn't flinch. Is that a threat? No. It's a reminder, I said, that you built this story on the assumption that I wouldn't fight back. You were banking on me being passive. Confused. Broken. He smiled. Weren't you? I turned to her. You watched me fall apart. Filmed it. Scripted it. You made me think I was losing my grip while you were tightening yours around my life. But the thing about breaking someone down is, you can't control what comes out of the rubble. Tamsin's expression faltered for the first time. Just a flicker. I leaned forward slightly. I've already sent the files out. Multiple locations. Multiple people. I'm not here to stop you. I'm here to record this chapter. You two can keep spinning your web. But now the spider is visible. You think anyone will care? The man asked, folding his arms. You think they'll believe you? It's still your word against hers. I nodded. That's why I brought her words. I pulled a small USB from my jacket and dropped it on the table beside the envelope. Everything, including the parts she didn't think I'd hear. The plans, the make it look like he did line, the checklist, even the final leverage video, all with metadata intact, and forensic timestamps that won't go away. He didn't reach for it, but his jaw tightened. Tamsin finally spoke. Why now? Because I'm not the man you designed anymore, I said. I'm not walking away with my head down, wondering what I did wrong. I know what you did. I see it. And I'm not giving you the satisfaction of my silence. Her voice was quieter than I remembered. You don't have to do this. I let out a breath. No, I didn't. You did. Then I turned to leave. No dramatics. No shouting. No threats. Just closure. As I reached the door, I paused. One more thing, I said without looking back. Next time you try to rewrite someone's life, pick a character who doesn't learn to write back. And I walked out. I don't know what happened in that room after I left. I don't know what was said, or if they opened the envelope right away. I don't know if they tore it up or listened to the recordings with clenched teeth. But I do know this. Silence is a powerful weapon, but it cuts both ways. And tomorrow, the world will hear everything. I didn't sleep that night, but for the first time in months, it wasn't because of fear. It was calm, empty, like the space after a storm, when everything has been knocked over, but at least the sky is clear again. My head felt light. My chest didn't ache. I just sat at my kitchen table, looking around a house that finally felt like it belonged to me again. In the silence, I realized something strange. I wasn't angry anymore. Somewhere between finding the storage unit and walking out of that apartment, the anger had burned through me completely, and what was left wasn't revenge, it was clarity. She had tried to control the narrative. They both had. But when you take away someone's voice long enough, you forget they're still watching, still listening, still remembering. And I remembered everything. The next morning, I got in the car and drove 2 hours north to my brother's house. He opened the door in socks, half a donut in his mouth, and said, "You look like hell. But, like, better hell." I laughed for the first time in a long time. We sat on the porch and talked. About everything. I showed him the copies. The recordings. The plan. He didn't interrupt. Just nodded slowly, his jaw tight. When I finished, he didn't say, "I'm sorry," or "She didn't deserve you." He just said, "Okay, now what?" And for the first time, I had an answer. Not court. Not drama. Not war. Just truth. I sent everything to the lawyer I'd spoken to weeks ago, The one I almost hired but ghosted because I was too afraid to believe I was really losing her. I gave him the whole folder, Project Honeyroot. Every file, date stamped and verified. I told him I didn't want to sue. I didn't want money. I just wanted distance. I wanted it on record that the story she told wasn't the only version out there. He agreed. Said the paper trail spoke louder than anything I could say in court. And so I left it with him. I changed my number, my email, my locks. I left the house 2 weeks later, not because I was running, but because I was done. I moved into a small cabin an hour out of town, surrounded by trees and air that didn't feel like it had to be filtered through someone else's moods. No cameras, no microphones, just silence, the good kind this time. I started writing again, not about her, about me, about the parts of myself I'd buried trying to be a good husband, a gentle man, an easy person to live with. I wrote about loneliness, about erasure, about rebuilding from blueprints no one else could see. I published one of the essays online under a pseudonym. It went viral. People said it felt like someone had finally described them. I got emails from strangers saying things like, "I thought I was going crazy too," or "Thank you for putting it into words." I never used her name. I never exposed her. That wasn't the point. The point was that I existed. I still do. And these days, I drink my coffee without wondering who it's for. I take walks without looking over my shoulder. I fall asleep without checking for messages that never come. I don't know where she is now. I don't care. Let her live in the version of the story she wrote. I've moved on to mine. And this one ends with peace. Not silence. Peace.